And so this session is about functions of PlantTools which help you with project setup. There are let's say two types. One are functions which actually help you change or manage your project setup faster. And then there are some other functions or features which help you have a better, let's say, setup experience for the user. Let me put it that way. Okay, so so I will go through a few slides. So yeah, you are already here on this 2 p.m. session. There is the same session also starts at 6 p.m. And tomorrow I have your data at the center with PlantTools, and that is also repeated at 6 p.m. So if you're interested in that, feel free to look into that as well. A few words to Auxalia. We are a merger from Cat Studio and Bytes & Building here in Germany. We are now the biggest reseller in the construction industry, and the plant industry is also part of that industry for Autodesk at least. These are our headquarters. Sorry, our offices, and our headquarters in Hamburg. Yeah, there's one in Switzerland, one in Vienna. I'm personally in the middle of Germany in Gießen, which is not listed here as a separate office. Okay, so there are two PlantTools I want to show. One is PlantExpressTools, and there we have certain functions which I want to showcase. The PlantExpressTools have altogether 17 functions, but some of them I showed yesterday. They are more for the CAD. They are more CAD functions. Here I want to concentrate on the functions which help you with the setup. And then we have PlantSync. Since I did the session already in German in the morning, I have to hurry up because it's a lot of content I want to share with you. Okay, so let's start AutoCAD Plant 3D. And what I want to start with is our function to rename or copy a project. If you create a new project with AutoCAD Plant 3D and you use a template project, AutoCAD Plant 3D will copy or will not copy. It will create a copy of the project with the same setup, but all files you have in that template project, all the files which are unknown to AutoCAD Plant 3D will not be copied. So with our function, hold on, it's done now. We copy the whole folder with everything in it, and that will be copied. So I go to my projects folder for that session, this one here. And I want to, I should switch to English since I had the last session in German. So English here should make it easier for you. So I want to make a copy. You can also rename, but I want to make a copy for that session here. The destination path, I put it on my desktop. The new project name. And then if you want, you can already type in the description and the project number. I need the project number later on. And you can decide whether or not you want to copy the drawings. I have one test drawing in it for this presentation. Usually a template project doesn't contain any drawings, but you can do this. Okay, so now let's open this project. Open. Yeah. This is I should also mention that's from our last presentation, so it remembered the path or the folder name. I have here a test version because of our bolt calculation, which will be released hopefully next week. So there may be some error messages here. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to show you how you can manage your selection list. So I have here a test drawing. And if we look at the selection list, for example, services, come on. Then we see here a list, the usual list Autodesk provides. So how do you, if you want to delete something from the list or want to extend it, you have to go to project setup, and it's if you do have to make a lot of changes, it's a lot of work. So you can actually use our PlantExpressTools. You can export the selection list. I want to export from PNID. I want to export the services. Where to? I want to export it on my desktop. Let's call it test. Oh, let's call no, that's not lists. Okay, and the delimiter. Where is my? Hello. The video recording slows down the machine a bit, and the delimiter, since I'm here in Germany, or I use semicolon. And now let's open that file. Come on. That's not. What did I start? It cannot be right. Okay. Funny. So that's my list, and I want to extend that. So I will just create a new demo value. Okay. So I save this. What happens often for me, at least, since I do a lot of customer project setup, the customer has some sort of table already, either in Excel or on paper. So you, even if you don't need to necessarily export. If you want to create a new selection list, just create 2 columns in Excel, and then you can import it also as a new list. But I want to modify an existing one. So I made the change in Excel, and now I import it again, selection list, import. I select the file again, and I have to select the list, and I want to clear and update, no header, and that's about it. And now we can have a look here, and you see there is the new value. Later on, I will show a different way to manage your selection list. So that would be one example. The same action import function also allows you to export the project setup. So what I will do for now is, or to speed up the process, I want to export. I want to export the symbols, the equipment symbols, for example. So what I will do is, you can, as you can see, export the classes, the properties, and the symbols. In my case, I only want to export the symbols, and I only want to export the equipment. So now we have an Excel file, which I open. And then I will make some modifications. For example, so what you see here are all the properties you have if you click on the edit symbol button in your project setup. So you have the class name, then the block name, the symbol name, layer, color, and so on. You have all these settings. You can modify them here. For example, if you want to have all your equipment symbols in red, you just change it to red, or change the layer, or a different line type, or whatever. The only difference is, so you just overwrite. The only difference is the symbol name. The symbol name, you don't overwrite it. You need to just type in a new name if you want to rename it. Then you can use that function also nicely for checking purposes. For example, the tagging prompt, I recognize that, and this is by default not correct. Everything should be set to prompt, but as you can see here in Excel, if I filter this one symbol here, impact mill, is not set to use prompt. Prompt, of course, means that if you insert that symbol, a dialog pops up. So I want that, so I set it to prompt. And for whatever reason, the steerers or agitators, they are not set to ask for the tag upon insertion. So I don't know why, but maybe I want to change that. So you can easily do this here. Yeah, you can also, I should mention that already, there is a column command. There's only one. If you can type it in or you can select delete. That means that this symbol will be deleted. You can do the same for classes or for properties. So I close that and then I import again. Let me just close my window. There is some construction work going on. Okay, so we want to import the project setup from the setup file here. Even if you have selected all three options, it does not matter. It recognizes that there are only a few, or which there are only the symbols to be imported. Okay, so it will generate also some images for symbols. If you import the symbols, after that process, the project setup will open automatically, and then we can have a look. And check if the changes have been applied properly. There is a question. Yeah, the question is, will it update the symbols in the existing drawings? Yes, there is. So let's say if I would have a drawing or equipment symbols, and they would be, by default, they would be white, or because they use by layer or font layer in German. And then if I change them with the import to red, and the project setup will be changed, as soon as you click on OK, the drawings which are already open will be updated. There is a system variable for that. It's called sync style mode. Sync style mode. This controls whether how the sync style command should behave. So by default, all the drawings which are currently open will be updated if I go into the project setup, which just happened. And if I then click on close, then these drawings which are already open will be updated. Drawings which are not open, if you open them, you either have to execute the sync style command, or you can change the sync style mode variable so that drawings are always updated when you open them, but that can take a little while, so it's up to you. But the answer is yes. Just wanted to explain a little bit more. So let's have a look here. So we will see that the color is now set to red and the tagging is set to prompt. If you want to change a layer, you have to make sure that the layer exists before you use the import, the layer here in the project symbol style. Okay, since I don't have any equipment in my test drawing, we will not see that. Now what I want to do is create a few new properties. No, that was. So what I will do now is I will export the project setup We'll just overwrite the file. In this case, only the properties are required. And I want to export, I'll make it a little bit faster, everything under instrumentation. Okay. That should do it. So let's see. Okay, so what we will see is, or what we see is all the classes, and they are listed in, or all the properties of the instrumentation classes and all subclasses. So you see instrumentation, then you see general instrument symbols, which are under instrumentation, and further down, and then you see the various general instrument symbols, which are under the general instrument symbol. So it's the whole hierarchy of your classes is also reflected here. But what I want to do is I want to add some properties to the general instrument symbols class. So what I will do is I will filter general instrument symbols. Okay. So now I can explain a little bit more what we see here. So we have the class name, then we have the property name. If you see an asterisk in front of it, this is like in AutoCAD Plant 3D. That means that that property comes from a parent class. Then you have the base class, general instrument symbols, as I mentioned, belong to the instrumentation. The data type, if you use selection list, then it says selection list. We also, for convenience, have selection list here. So these are the property types you can actually use, the data type, sorry. Then if you use selection list, you can type in the selection list name, the display name, the default value. If you use acquisition, that would be filled out as well. Read only and visible can be set here as well. So what I want to do is, it wouldn't be really necessary to export everything or to export anything for that matter. You could just create an Excel file with the necessary proper columns, but that would be hard to do. So even for me, so it's very convenient just to export something so you have the columns. So you essentially can use the Excel file as a template. So what I want to do is, as I mentioned, I want to create some new properties. So I want to create some instrumentation, and it should be false and it should be visible. So I just create a new property and I copy this. I need this 6 times. LL and LLL, and the same here. H L and low and low. Okay. Oh, so theoretically I could delete all the rows above that. I only need these, but doesn't really matter. Okay, default values. Maybe you want to have a blank as a default value. I will add this as well. And now I save, close and save, and I import. Where is my, okay, project setup, import, selecting the file. Okay, well, let's speed this up a bit. So 6 have been added, 1,627 have not changed. Again, the project setup will open. And if we look now at the general instrument symbols, you will recognize that here we have the new properties. Here we have the new display names, and the default value is also a space. So this is how it's done if you want to create. So that's very convenient, especially for me if I do customization. And the customer, I have some customers which have more than 100 properties, and but they have them already in some sort of Excel file or so. So I don't need to type them in. I just can use Excel very conveniently. Okay, next we have the selection list import function. This is a little bit different than what I showed. The selection list feature here of PlantExpressTools allows you to essentially have your selection lists up to date at all times. I will show you the example I have here. That's actually two customer examples. One is from a Danish customer, so don't worry, don't get confused about the service descriptions. So I use essentially the same example for service, but I want to get the data not by exporting and importing. I want to get the data from a database or some data source. It could be also an Excel file, could be a CSV file, because some customers are managing the selection list or the content of the selection list externally because they use it also somewhere else. So this is the example. This is the service, the description, and the color. The customer uses that table also for coloring his line. So there is the RGB colors. But we concentrate on the first two. And I also have another example from a German customer, which is an Excel Access database in this case. And enable. And we have here a very long list with the lot of columns. I'm also in this case interested in the first two columns. So I have the number here and then the description and a lot of other properties which I do not need right now. I should maybe close that. And as you can imagine, managing, so this table is used, specifically this one from this German customer is used for all sorts of other functions. And so he managed that list, that table anyway. And now the question is, how do I get this here in my drawing? So first, I use this one example. So essentially, this is the link to this data source. It can be, do we show this here somewhere? It can be a CSV, an Excel file, CSV, Excel, or an SQLite database. If this is not enough, we can use UDL files to link to Access or SQL Server. That's my table you saw, and these are the columns I have available. And well, that's the selection list. This part you may remember from the import. So if I now update or start the update function, now we have this list from the Danish customer. And you can, although that's not a common use case, you can switch essentially between the two, and I update again, and now I have the other one. Again, it's not really used in this fashion. It's usually used in you have probably one type of services. Unless you have maybe different customers and you use different services and so on, then you may have multiple lists. Yeah, that's an example. So what you can also do is, if you make changes to that data source very often, you can set PlantExpressTools in a way that every time you save, the selection list is updated from the external data source. So that's another way. Then next we have Plant project setup. We started with our own project setup. We have currently here the project properties and the drawing properties. When the bolt calculation will be implemented, there is also here a section for the bolt setup of the bolt calculation. So why did we do this? Well, there are limitations in the project setup of Plant3D. There would be more possibilities if the user interface would allow it. So we started to develop our own user interface. We want to have, first of all our PlantTools settings under here, but later on also all Plant3D settings, specifically, or most importantly, the P&ID and 3D classes. So what I want to do is I want to create a new category for the drawing properties. So let's call them demo. And then I want to create a new actually two new properties. So frame size, that's for the, and the advantage we have by default or with AutoCAD Plant3D, you can use only string data type, so text input. You can create a project or drawing property, but it's only for typing in text. What we did is we allow also selection lists, or selection lists. So we have this user interface here, and what I'm doing is I will frame size. I have here an Excel file which I drag and drop here. The file contains a header line, description. Do I use description? The key. So here I see all the columns I have available, and this is how it later looks for the user. So the user will see this selection list, so not just two columns. As I mentioned, I can change the order, but the key value, this is set here under value, this is the key value. So if the user selects something, this is shown, but this is selected. And I will use that later for the file name format. So this is part one. Then I need a second property, and this is actually the doc type, the document type. This is also supposed to be a selection list. And again, doc types. So maybe just so you get an idea, this is what is in the file. Probably not much. Yeah, two columns with the values. So it's essentially similar to a selection list. It has a header. I want to use description. Okay, and again, this is how it would look like for the user. So you can just toggle about it. There are some options which, are not important right now. Okay, clicking on OK. And now we can already see these properties. If I select this again, properties, here it is. So here in our Plant Project Manager, we can see and use them. PFD, P&ID, whatever you want. But what I want to do is I want to create a new, in our Plant Project Manager, a new category. So I want to create a category. And the category should be for PFDs. So I call it PFDs. And I don't need the work history. I need a folder, of course, where they are stored, PFDs. That's the backup folder. I want to have it at the top. I want to use versions and revisions. So if you saw my session yesterday with CAD tools, no, actually that was the first session yesterday about an overview. So in a Plant Reporter, we can create versions and revisions, and we can do that here as well for drawings. And what I want to do in addition is I want to define a file name format. And here we thought about how to make that. Either have a user interface similar to Autodesk, so you can select multiple properties and they are just concatenated. But we use this expression editor where we have all sorts of functions and available, and that allows you to create a formula like in Excel. So what I want to do is I want to create a file name format which is made out of the, let's see where I have the project number of plus, then I want to have the drawing number plus, and then I want to have the frame size, the frame size, for example, plus the doc type. Okay, So what I should add, it's not required, but it makes sense to have some sort of delimiter in between. So I will copy that as a delimiter for everything. And I also want to show you a different example. This expression here is using the file name, which I calculated here, and adding some information with of version and revision. So that would be also an expression which you could do that essentially uses the file name and it checks if there is a version or revision and adds some more text to it. So now let's see, this is how we have that here. And now let's create a new drawing for that. So we have the project number, which cannot be edited because it comes from the project. And now we type in the project name, and here we can select the drawing. Of course, we can do this also like this. And as you can see, it uses 10, which is the equivalent to this page size or frame size. And I want to create a PFD or a PNID. Come on. Okay, PFD. Actually, that did I use that? Actually, yeah, that's correct. So this is how you can build also your drawing name. And again, you can use create versions and revisions of that drawing, and the drawing would then look like this here with version 0. And you can then make, well, you cannot make a revision or a version if the drawing is open. So let's close that. And if I create a version or revision, you have to type in some text, changes made during demo. Okay, and should it be a new version or new revision? Does not really matter right now. And it will back up also the old drawing. It's also important. The version number now changed to 1. And in the history, you also see version 0, version 1, the dates, and so on. This list, by the way, I mentioned that yesterday, can be used in a report we created. So you can create a version history of your drawings or your documents. So the last thing I want to show is PlantSync, which is a tool, a separate tool, which allows you to synchronize or to transfer project configurations from one project to other projects. So in my case, I made changes. I changed the symbols. I created new properties. I changed the selection list, and I want to transfer that to another project. So what I do is I select to which project. Oh, I should also switch to English here. Okay, so let's see. I want to bring that back to my template project. You can select multiple projects if you want. Now I define, or in this case, I show you what should be actually checked. So often it does not make sense to select everything. So it checks selection lists and drawings. Yeah, I did this during my last demo. So I made additions to properties, and I actually, did I override anything? Not quite sure. I actually only added some. And I made changes to the symbol attributes, which are color, layer, and so on. So that's the only thing it should check. Then I use the synchronize button, and then it compares the source project with any target project I selected. In this case, it's just one. And now we can have a preview, so to speak. So we see the status changed. Apparently, Plant3D did some changes by itself because I did not make any changes. And this is our selection, our services selection list. You see all the deletions because we added from the data source, we added a new set of selection values. So this happened. And then let's check here, instrumentation, general instrument symbols. Here we see with the plus everything that is new or which will be added. If there would be something which has been deleted, we would see Well, you saw that with the selection list. You see that red cross here for deleting. Going back, so below us, and here we have the new color, for example. So let's see, in the last demo, I got an error message. So then you eventually click on commit, and you get this, hopefully this result. Sometimes it's necessary to run it 2 or 3 times because the effects or the changes are recursive. So sometimes you have to go step by step, so to speak, or run it multiple times. But yeah, that's how PlantSync works. And that's about it. I think I'm 2 minutes faster than my last German session. Yeah, the last slide. Thanks for your attention. And if you are interested, as I mentioned before, tomorrow I have your data at the center, again at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Yeah, here we have that. So I encourage you to also watch that. Then we see various plant tools which all work around your data. Okay, have a nice day.